everybody, it's Pixie People here again, and that's really it. Let's get into the story. We continue our story right after where we left it off with Deku just eviscerating the Nomu and him just walking off. After the fact that happens, then he just goes home, meditates for the whole week. And so Deku medicine. I'm kidding. But well, after that, Deku just goes back to school. The week later, Aizawa announces the entrance exams. Not the entrance exam. He announces the sports festival, and Deku gets ready for that. Day later, they get their suits on. Deku has to wear a very tight UA form, so he just decides to rip the sleeves off. So he rips the sleeves off, takes one of the ripped pieces, make a thinner ripped piece, and then makes a handband. So Deku's chill like that. And then it starts. So Deku gets into the line with everyone else, charges up his electric power, and he shoots forward. So far that he actually gets all the way to the big hole. He can't jump the hole, so he stops. Depletes his power, which means he has to recharge it later. Because his electric ability takes a bit longer to recharge if he uses it for very long periods of time. Very quickly, really. If he uses it for a long period of times, then drops it, it regenerates quicker. But if you use it for a very short period of time with massive boosts, basically like Kaioken, but it doesn't hurt you, then Deku what's Deku do? He kills him. Kidding. But he then just jumps the hole, like goes on little hole things. Afterwards, he sees Todoroki catching up to him, and he devises a plan. So he immediately starts walking over the mines, which Todoroki takes as an advantage, which Deku was planning this. So Todoroki uses his ice ability to cross faster than Deku, but Deku uses this to punch the ice, making Todoroki lose balance. Then Deku leaps forward, grabs Todoroki by the arm, then throws him real far, like super far away. Then he lands on his toe, and then he powers up into his electric ability. If you're wondering how he just used it, he didn't just use it. He had to walk a bit longer than just a couple meters. I just shortened it to say. I just shortened it because that would just be useful waste of time. Seku shoots forward, grabs Todoroki by the face, slams his face into not into a mine, but into the ground. Then steps on his. But actually, wait, no. He jumps over Todoroki. Puts his foot on his face and just leaps forward with like a very, basically, an air shock happens. Deku kicks really hard off Todoroki's head, making a shockwave, and he gets first place. Easy. Well, then Deku gets the 10 million points, so he takes off his blue headband to put on the 10 million point headband. Then Deku, Alright, so Deku grabs, Deku starts asking people to join his team. Of course, not a lot of people want to join his team. But Tokiyome decides to join his team as well. his team. Tetsu also decides to join his team because he's pretty strong and he's pretty respectful too. So then he also gets the robot girl. The robot girl sees him as an easy advantage to get ahead because if she keeps Deku with 10 million points, then she can get good ratings with her technology. So it starts. So Deku and Tokuyami devised a plan with Tetsu helping them as well. And so Tokuyami uses Dark Shadow with Tetsu turning into his armor state, then Deku jumping onto Dark Shadow and then starts flying around. And as that's happening, everyone tries to attack Deku, but Deku is doing the big brain move and starts parrying everyone. All their quirks, everything, just parry, parry, parry. And then starts yoinking points off them. The reason Deku can just tear your points off, is, even if you tie it like really tight, is because they're meant to be torn, you know? Then Deku just, what's Deku do? What's Deku do? Well, he just keeps repeating this process until, until someone tries knocking him off. But this is why Tetsu hardened, because then Dark Shadow uses a claw that he sent backwards, slam Tetsu forward to smack that person off their horse. You think this would lose balance? There's two people still. And then they shoot back Deku with Tetsu grabbing onto Tokuyami's head, Dark Shadow's head, and shoots him forward, and then that just brings them back all together. Then the round ends. Obviously, everyone in the original passed in the original. And as Deku goes into fight Shinso, Ojiro asks him to step aside for a bit, and then Ojiro explains what he felt during the match, that he didn't feel like he deserved it, and he feels like Shinso controlled him to win. So Deku leaves this in mind. She walks into the ring to find Shinso, then trashing his teammates, which Deku does really like. Respects his teammates, so he gets slightly frustrated, but not since he's Ryu's student, and Ryu's now chilled out. He's much chill, very chill. So he just keeps walking and walking towards Shinso. So Shinso then goes to throw a punch. Deku parries him and hits him with a Shoryuken, shooting him out of the ring, basically spinning him like a blade into the air. And then Shinso gets sent in the crowd, and everyone cheers. And then Deku walks out. Then Deku watches the rest of the matches, cheering on Ochako while she gets her ass beat. Anyways, Deku's next match is with Todoroki, and the fight begins. So, Todoroki immediately sends an ice blast, but Deku just, uses a Hadouken to blow up the ice. But Todoroki dodges the rest of the Hadouken, because the Hadouken was still going after he destroyed the ice. So then Todoroki throws more ice and more ice, until Deku immediately just gets up to Todoroki's face, trips him, then doesn't throw him out of the ring, but throws him farther into the ring. By the way, Todoroki was real far back into the ring. He could have been kicked out if Deku tried. So then Deku starts giving his kung fu wisdom, and just says, "It's your quirk, not endeavor. Your power is your own, not your father's." More quotes than anything. So Todoroki takes this to heart and starts sending out fire towards Deku. Then Deku charges electricity and runs towards the flames, and doesn't parry the flames. Just goes straight through him. Flies into the air with a spin kick. Then he spins forward and hits Deku with a chop uh, into the head, not completely taking out Todoroki, but does do some damage. Then Todoroki throws a giant ice blast at Deku, which actually catches him, only on the arms though, and he just breaks it off with his bare hands. But he leaves one arm iced, just so he has an advantage with more brute strength. So Todoroki goes to send a fire blast towards Deku, but Deku weaves it and just slams Todoroki in the stomach. But then Todoroki sends Deku back with fire, and they both get to one corner of the ring. Then Todoroki charging up his last fire blast, basically what he did in the anime, with Deku charging up a big Hadouken, like the electrocution Hadouken, basically like the one he used on the zero pointer. And then he hits him with a Hadouken! Then Todoroki sends his blast at it, but obviously Hadouken's gonna beat a fire blast, so the Hadouken just absorbs the fire blast, gets Todoroki and sends him out of the ring, making a massive explosion like rocks go sent flying, like in the original. Because still Midnight and Concrete, I don't remember that, but the Concrete Hero, they still use. Then Deku murders. Okay, so Deku, after being, he doesn't go to sleep to Midnight's pheromones, because he doesn't like her, like, at all. He thinks she should cover up more. You're thinking, well, her entire skin's covered. Not enough. Put a dress on, lady. Not that Deku doesn't like when women show their skin, it's just uncomfortable because you're an adult around students. So, unso Deku after, then Deku, you know, was, waits for his next opponent, which is Bakugo. Which the fight begins, and Todoroki and Bakugo and Deku haven't fought in a bit. The one time they fought was in middle school when Bakugo got frustrated at Deku one day and he wanted to fight. Which Deku, being a newbie student, just thought he could just go fighting people when he wanted to. Obviously, both Deku and Bakugo got in trouble, and actually Ryu, instead of Inko, showed up to discipline his student by chopping him on the neck really hard. Not knocking Deku out, but still hurting a lot. So Deku learns not to just fight at a random people. If people ask him to fight, it's not like he has to accept it. And if they're disrespecting him by fighting him, by disrespecting his family or his future students. And so Deku decides, it's been a bit since I fought in Bakugo, and Bakugo was hyped to fight Deku again because their last bout ended in a draw. The only reason why is because the teacher found out immediately before they started, which they only threw one attack. Bakugo threw two attacks while Deku threw one. They did basically the same damage to each other. And then the fight begins. With Bakugo sending a massive explosion towards Deku. Don't worry, Bakugo's still on par with Deku. It's not like I'm just gonna give Deku overpoweredness. And then Deku just goes through the fire and punches Bakugo in the stomach. But Bakugo counters the explosion with just a bigger explosion, which burns off most of Deku's clothes, which makes him have a new clothing style. You know how Ryu has like that cloth over him now? Basically like that. Just no beard. Or jacked as him. And the fight continues with Deku hitting Bakugo with a Shoryuken, not sending Bakugo out of the ring because he shoots himself back down to shoot a bigger explosion. And then when the explosion happens, Deku actually dodges it this time and punches Deku in the face, and then hits him with a mean, whatever Ryu combo you want. And then he slams Bakugo right back down. Then he charges a Hadouken, Hits with a Hadouken! Hit him with the Hadouken. He uses a Hadouken, which Baku counters with his own with an AP shot, which is just a big ass explosion. And they actually cancel each other out, like sending a shockwave through the arena. But Baku just gets sent closer to the ground, while Deku gets sent farther into the sky. Like almost cloud level, how high Deku just went. But he's not outside of the ring yet, so. They know this by looking upwards, and he's still up. They can see the dot, and he's not. And they can like measure where he is, so he's alright. Still in the ring. Sabaku then breathes heavily because he just took a massive shockwave that shot him down to the ground. While Deku just took a shockwave that didn't really hurt that much because it was his chi. Baku's explosions hurt him, while Deku's chi doesn't hurt him. So Deku slaps back down, charging an electric punch. Then his fist starts like burning up in the atmosphere. Yes, I know Deku doesn't have an actual fire ability, but it's just the pressure of how far Deku was up. And then Deku just gets punched in the face by Baku, but he doesn't care, so he slams his face into Baku. You know how Baki characters get punched in the face, where basically their pupil looks like it's coming out of their eye? That's how it looks to Baku right now. And then Baku just slaps the ground, bouncing into the sky. Not as high as Deku, but still bouncing super far into the sky. And then Deku turns around, smacks Baku's back, popping it, and then he shoots him out of the ring. And then Deku puts a thumbs up in the air, and everyone starts cheering really loudly, and Deku wins the sports festival. Good job, Deku. Now we're going into the Stain arc. And the Stain arc goes the same. Let's say Deku actually Todoroki invited him to come to his internship, which he knows it's Endeavor, which he does actually go. So Deku is with Endeavor this time. Obviously, Endeavor doesn't really like this kid being with his son, but he's not going to argue with his son. So his kid, thinks of him as a better person. So Deku and Todoroki go on missions a bit, and then they hear the attack on Hosu happening. So they get there, and Deku just starts piecing up all of the most of the Nomus. Obviously, he can't get the flying Nomu because his attacks only shoot one area. He can't really control them, so he can't really hit the Nomu. So he's just waiting for it to attack him. It never attacks him, and so Endeavor goes chasing after it. While Deku wonders where he heard that Ida was in a ship around here, and he doesn't see him. But he sees his teacher, so he goes to go find Ida, with Todoroki following him as well. So this time, Todoroki and Deku are with each other. So they get into the. Eventually, they find Ida about to get stabbed. But of course, Deku being fine, of course, with Deku running up, breaking Stain's main sword. But Stain just grabs a cloth, wrapping it around it, grabbing the broken part of his blade, jumping into the air, wrapping it around, and going to stab Deku in the head. But Deku counters it again, not breaking the sword this time, but stabbing Stain in the arm with it, basically rendering one of his arms useless. So basically, he shot him through where the hand and what's this? I don't know the part that connects the hand and the arm, like the middle of your arm, basically. Basically, the middle of your arm to your shoulder to your hand. I don't know. That's the forearm. I think it's called the forearm. And he stabs him in the first part of in the arm, basically rendering one of Stan's arms useless. So Stan grabs out one of his other blades, goes to stab Deku again, but this time Deku actually gets stabbed through the hand, with Todoroki then using an ice ability, but Stan gets the lick off and stops Deku from moving. Like Deku's not just drops to the ground. He actually is still in his stance. And then Deku, then Todoroki fights Stain with Ida finally getting up and fighting him as well. After Deku finally gets rid of his, you know, his body, then he just backs up, then charges a Hadouken. So then Ida and Todoroki see Deku charging a Hadouken, so they start just beating it out of so they start clapping up Stain until he gets locked into an area. Then they hold him, and then Deku hits him with a Hadouken, which hits Stain and bounces him against the wall, knocking him out. And so they wrap Stain up, and then they bring him out. Native, still being alive in the story, tells him he'll take care of it. So then after a bit, Deku gets grabbed by the bird Nomu. Yes, I'm still heading the fact that that was one of his bullies, the one with the wings in the first episode. And so Deku tries to fight back, but he can't really get him. That's when Stain jumps up and kills the Nomu. He still says Deku is a true hero, trying to save a person without trying to get any glory with it. You wanna know how Stain knew that? Just by the aura of Deku. It reminded him of All Might, so he trusts Deku with basically a lot of. He trusts Deku with taking the glory, and so he uses his Conqueror's Haki, not still affecting Deku, of course, and afterwards Stain gets knocked out from a bone getting stabbed into him. All right, so Deku, after just facing Stain, goes to visit Ida and Deku, and actually is in the hospital as well because he got a freaking his hand stabbed through. Obviously, eventually it regenerates, and he's alright. Okay, so Deku, wins, of course. Obviously, he's slightly frustrated that he didn't get the glory, but not to the effect of Todoroki. And so, after a bit, Deku returns home. That's going to leave things for right now. Like, subscribe, hit the post notification bells. As you know, this helps me, get popular, and I like that, so please subscribe and hit the post notification bell. Said it twice, just so you know. Goodbye.